Hi everyone, I'm Maxime Garcia. I'm a postdoc at INRIA Grenoble, and today I will present our work on coherent mark-based sterilization of 3D scenes at the compositing stage. This work is a collaboration with Romain Verne, Mohamed El-Farat, Pierre Bénard, and Joël Toho. When synthesizing images using computer graphics algorithm, one could strive to photorealism using physical-based rendering, or one could also strive to a more artistic look using non-photorealistic rendering, which produces images that are closer to paintings. And this is the class of algorithm we are interested in our work. Non-photorealistic rendering is itself divided into two lines of research. The first one being line rendering, in which we want to extract and render contour lines and inner lines from 3D objects. The second being region coloring, in which we want to stylize the inside of the objects, either by using textures, or by using marks and brushstrokes that are attached to the objects. Our methods falls into that later category. And so, our main motivation for this work is to stylize 3D scenes so that they look like paintings. We also want a method that can create a wide range of style, while being easy to integrate into existing rendering pipeline. Finally, we want our method to maintain temporal coherence, and I will now detail what is temporal coherence and why it is important for our method. Temporal coherence is a set of three features that all NPR algorithms should maintain as much as possible in order to produce a wide range of style. This is a mean to evaluate this kind of algorithms through flatness, the 3D appearance of the stylization, and in our context of mark-based approaches, it can be directly translated into a constant mark density, through motion coherence that states that the marks should follow the object motion, and the temporal continuity that states that there should be no abrupt changes in the stylization, so no popping or flickering artifacts. Unfortunately, it has been shown by Bénard and colleagues that maintaining these three properties perfectly at the same time is impossible. And this is because the definition of each property might be contradictory with the definition of the others. And so, at some point, we have to make a compromise. I will now show you the different trade-offs we can make to maintain temporal coherence through this example of a fixed 3D model that will be also our main example through all the presentation. So let's ignore the flatness at first, to the benefits, to the motion coherence and temporal continuity. We can do that by simply applying brushstrokes to the 2D texture of the 3D model, and we obtain this kind of stylization. As you can see, we have a perfect motion coherence, also a perfect temporal continuity with no popping or no flickering artifacts, but you can notice that the result looks 3D, and this is because we simply stylized the 2D texture of the 3D model. If we now ignore the motion coherence to the benefit of flatness and temporal continuity, for instance by applying 2D marks on the image directly, you can see that we have a painterly look, but we also notice a strange shading effect, which is called the shoulder shading effect, and this is something that is not desirable in the final stylization. And finally, if we remove the temporal continuity to the benefit of the flatness and the motion coherence, we get those popping and flickering artifacts, which might be undesirable, or at least we might want to control them as much as possible. For our method, we made our own compromise. We maintain a perfect motion coherence, and we try to manage for the temporal continuity and the flatness as much as possible. And this is the kind of results we get with our method, which can produce a wide range of style. I will show you this at the end of the presentation. Of course, we are not the first one to investigate this kind of methods, and I will now briefly make a recap of the state-of-the-art of mark-based approaches. We divided the previous approaches into 4 categories with respect to their sampling strategy. The first one being static object space, dynamic object space, dynamic image space, and minimax methods. First, the static object space methods allows the user to paint individual strokes on the object, so they are free to draw and to control the appearance of the strokes. It also works on animated objects like the method proposed by Bassett and colleagues. But the main drawback of this method is that it contains holes and aggregates when we zoom in or out the object. To cope with this issue, dynamic object space methods were introduced, for instance the method by Cornish and colleagues, which introduces a level of detail mechanism using the distance to the camera as a blending factor between levels of point density generated at fixed distance to the camera. The main drawback of this kind of method is that it introduces discontinuities when transitioning between levels, with points being added or removed from frame to frame. Dynamic image space methods generate constant point density in image space. They are also easy to integrate into existing pipelines as they work with images, but it is more difficult to maintain a motion coherence and temporal continuity as we need correspondences between pixels of the animation from frame to frame. This is, for instance, what was proposed by Wu and colleagues in 2010. Finally, Minimax methods introduce a high point density continuous level of detail mechanism, which enhance greatly the motion coherence and temporal continuity of the stylization method, but as their name suggests, the range of styles is limited to Minimax styles, and so this is the main drawback. Our contribution with respect to those previous methods is that we introduce a new dynamic and temporally coherent point sampling method that works at the compositing stage. We also guarantee a quasi-constant spread density by introducing a new fractalization mechanism. We also ensure temporal continuity by introducing an opacity scheme and a new order-independent blending function. And finally, as our method works at the compositing stage, it is easy to integrate into existing rendering pipelines. And so, our method works as follows. Starting from GBuffers, which are 2D textures that contain 3D scene information, like the position, the color, or the orientation of the 3D objects. We will generate anchor points at each frame of an animation, and then we transform those points into splats and blend those splats together. So let me detail now the point generation algorithm. Starting from the position GBuffer, we will use a 3D Varley noise to generate points from it. More precisely, the 3D Varley noise generates a 3D virtual grid in which each 3D cell contains a random point PIGK. Also, we can mention at this stage that when the object deforms or rotates or translates, the grid will follow this motion and we maintain motion coherence because the position we use as input are in object space. Then, for each pixel of the position GBuffer, we look at the nearest point in the 3D grid to the position contained at that pixel, and we will assign this pixel to the 3D points of the grid. And so that we can group pixels of the GBuffer together. Once we have grouped those pixels together, we can compute the final position of anchor points as the average screen space position of each pixel inside the group. More precisely, for a pixel X of a group G, we compute the distance to the nearest point of the 3D grid it was assigned to, so the PIGK, and we note this distance dx. The final position of the anchor point of the group G is computed as the weighted average of the screen space position of the pixel of the group, weighted by their distance dx to the nearest point. Here is an example of the fish. Starting from the position, we compute the distance to the nearest, we group pixels together, and we can perform point generation with the weighted average and transform this point into splats, as we can see in the example. But we still have issues. If you look at the left, we still have always an aggregate when we zoom in or out the objects, and this is why we introduce our own continuous LOD mechanism, which uses fractalization to preserve a constant screen space intensity and enhance the flatness perception of our algorithm. This is done by blending together several point generation layers, whose frequencies is directly influenced by the surface gradient, as you can see on the formula here. Each level gets different frequencies with respect to the surface gradient. What this formula tells you is that flat regions we get more samples, and so our fractalization algorithm is robust to zoom, stretch, and any kind of deformation, as you can see on the block here. Now that we know how to generate points and how to maintain flatness using this point generation, I will now detail how we draw them on the screen. Each anchor point is drawn as a textured billboard quad that always faces the camera. The color of the brush is directly sampled at the center of the quad, as you can see on the fish example here. We then have free control over the splat's properties, like the orientation that we can store inside the gbuffer, or directly influence its size, opacity, and other properties, like we can see on the example here with the orientation that we changed. However, this is not sufficient to maintain temporal continuity. As you can see on the silhouettes, there are some popping artifacts, and you can also notice a strange behavior in the blending between the splats. To prevent the popping artifact to occur at the silhouettes of our objects, we introduce an opacity scheme which applies a default opacity to the generated splats. This opacity is proportional to the number of pixels that was present in the group that generates the same anchor points. The final formula takes also into account the screen space size of the 3D cells projected onto the screen. Having fixed those silhouette popping issues, we now have to be careful about the blending function. If you look at the over function here, which is the traditional blending function, you can notice popping artifacts when splats come across each other. And this is because over is an order-dependent algorithm. That's why we introduce our new blending function, which is order-independent and which mimics the look of over. Of course, we are not the first one to introduce order-independent blending function. For instance, we have the function introduced by Maguire and colleagues, and the function introduced by Brogner and colleagues. However, those two methods do not try to mimic the over look, and the Maguire and colleagues contains artifacts. If you look carefully at the border of the splat, you can see a ringing artifact. As for the Brogner and colleague method, it is not suited to our case, as it sometimes switches the order of the splats in a non-natural fashion. I will now detail how our blending function works. Starting from a list of splat fragments that overlaps at the same pixel, each fragment containing its own color, depth, and opacity alpha, we compute a reference depth. This depth is computed by weighted the depth of each splat of each fragment by its opacity, and we take the minimum weighted depth as a reference depth. We now compute a visibility factor for each splat fragment. This visibility basically says that the nearer the fragment is to the reference depth, the more visible it will be. Note that we did not pull the full formula here, but you can find it in our paper. The final pixel color is computed as the weighted average of the color of each splat fragment weighted with their visibility factor. The final color is finally weighted by the alpha computed with the over function. I will now show results that we generated using our stylization method. As we said at the beginning, we generated results for a wide variety of styles, like the Painterly style, using the pastel brush, for instance, here on the Venus model. We applied this style to an animated character, and to a moving ocean that we generated directly from Blender. We can change the type of the brush, using a dive brush for instance, or a Faber wash on the sphere. Please note that 1K output results can be generated in a real-time fashion, while 2K and more high-quality results can take up to a few seconds to generate. We can use ledger splats like the splash here on the fish. And we can even combine several splats together, like the polyism on the teapots and the pen brush on the cups. We were also interested in pen and ink styles, like the stippling here, that is quite challenging because each frame contains at least 100,000 points. And this is the same for the hatching style, in which we also oriented the hatches along the surface curvature, like you can see on the robot model. And we also applied this style to the ocean I presented earlier. As I said before, we can use larger splats. So here it's the bubble splats or larger splat that we use for our examples, like here on the sphere. And we can also use procedural splats, like the Gabor noise on the Venus model, that is also quite challenging because we use mini maps with large splats. And we can even combine two Gabor noise, one high frequency and one low frequency results, to produce this watercolor style on the core model. Finally, we can even generate animated splats that are still procedural, like the hair here that you can see on the blob model, or on the torus model that you can see here, where we animated the orientation and the length of the hair. Of course, our method comes with some limitation. For instance, we cannot generate splats that results from hidden geometry as we work with Gbuffers, even though this can be fixed using depth-ping algorithms. Our method is highly sensitive to agazing that is present in the input textures, and it can also generate agazing itself, as you can see here with the example of the fish here. If we use a very high frequency with respect to the window size, we start to see these moiré artifacts that occurs from oversampling. As perspective, we would like to investigate further the use of procedural splats, like curve strokes, that you can see here on the fish. This result was generated after we published this work. And so, thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.